We're back.
Welcome back.
Woo!
Welcome back to the mid
Yes.
2000s.
The mid 2000s, man. What a time.
Yes. What a time.
What a time. I'm actually really, well, I was really excited when I saw this was coming out
Mhm.
because I love Demi to begin with.
Yeah.
And then
You have always been
yeah.
I think out of all of my friends you are the most hardcore stan, I want to say.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I grew up watching Disney Channel anyway. And then she
Mhm.
started on like As the Bell Rings, like the little short Disney,
Oh
like short.
my,
Do you remember
the
that?
wave of nostalgia that just like
Yes.
came over me.
That's why,
Yeah,
like,
that was the introduction to Demi. That was
yeah,
the first time she was on Disney, I
yeah,
want to say.
and well, because
Yeah,
they
because that was
they
even before Camp Rock,
yeah, and they
right?
didn't mention it in the documentary that we watched,
That's wild.
but
No.
she basically started talking about, like, "Oh, Camp Rock was, like, the beginning," and I'm like, "But" and Sunny with a Chance, I'm like, "But do you remember you were on As the Bell Rings before that?" But yes, she was on,
Maybe
like
maybe she has, like, memory. No, I'm joking, but, like, this is a little off topic, but Frankie Muniz?
mhm,
You gotta look it up. He basically had something happen to him where he, like, had, like, almost, like, close equivalent to, like, a stroke, and, like, he lost a lot of his memory, and he, like, doesn't remember being on Malcolm in the Middle.
yes, I did hear that. That's so
Yeah,
sad.
it is very
It's
sad.
so
It is
sad.
very sad. I laughed like an asshole. I'm so
Um,
sorry, but, I thought of it because of the As the Bell Rings, I'm like, "What if she, like" nah, just, like,
yeah,
was like, "I
with
wanna forget that ever happened." Oh my god.
like, with all the trauma
Yeah,
that she endured, like, there probably is a lot that she forgot.
yeah. I
But
mean, just for context, today we're discussing the new, Demi co-directed and I believe produced
yes,
documentary called Child Star on
yes,
Hulu. I think that's the only place it aired was Hulu.
yes,
I think it's like a Hulu, like, exclusive
yeah,
production. But
and
yeah, this
then
came out, what, like, last week?
yeah, on the 17th, it says, of
Mhm.
September, and then Wikipedia says it's a documentary film directed by Demi Lovato and American cinematographer Nicola Marsh. The film centers on the subject of tribulations of experiencing child stardom, fame, and working in the entertainment industry at a young age. And then it says it stars Demi, Drew Barrymore, Jojo Siwa, Raven Simone, Christina Ricci, Kenan Thompson, and then Allison Stoner. So, like, she
Mhm.
has some good people.
Yeah.
And a lot of people
Yeah,
were
she really
giving,
she really
yeah,
shined a light on stories that weren't being talked about.
yes. And a lot of people were giving shit to, because Jojo Siwa was in it.
Mhm.
And, like, I get, because she is kind of like, she's interesting.
Yeah, now people, made a good point. You remember how when, Miley was, like, on the VMAs and, like, dancing with Robin
Yeah.
Thicke and doing that whole thing?
Yep.
Everybody is, like, comparing JoJo's to like, they're like, "She's in that era of herself right now." Like,
Yeah.
because she had such a, like, sheltered, like, childhood, and she
Yep.
had to act really, really, like,
Yeah.
kid-like for a very long time.
Yeah.
Now she's like, "Oh, I can drink, I can do this, I can." She's, like,
In
wilding
that,
out
like,
because now
yeah,
she's finally
I
able to,
can.
like, make decisions for herself.
And a lot of people, I feel like, well, and you do see it in the documentary, um,
Uh-huh.
like, when you're not, either when you're not supervised, or, like, you're so traumatized that, like, the only way out is to, like, do things you shouldn't be doing with your life.
Right,
But it
right.
says Child Star opens with a group of children who answer questions regarding their aspirations, the meaning of fame, and how being on
Mhm.
camera makes them feel. And I feel like a lot of the kids did say they wanted to be like YouTube stars, and like,
Yeah. Yeah, they did.
yeah.
I was like, "Oh boy. Oh boy."
And
But,
because
like, I guess we were kind of saying well, I didn't say the exact same thing, but, like, when we were little, sometimes you'd be like, "Oh, I wanna be an actress," or "I wanna be famous," or "I wanna" you know what I mean? So, like,
because you see
I guess that's,
people,
like, today's
yeah,
version of it, I
yeah.
guess.
Because when you're little and you see someone else that's your age starring in like movies and television, you're like, oh, look how cool that would be to be on like a set and
Mhm.
to do this.
Yeah.
And I remember even in college, I mean, we were in our like late teens, early 20s, but when YouTube was
Mhm.
like at its prime, I remember being like, I want to do that. Like, I want to make
Mhm.
YouTube videos. Like, I think I'd be good at it. And then I filmed myself, and then I was like, never mind, I'm not good at it. We're not doing this anymore.
Yeah.
And I watched
Yeah.
back my video of me just sitting down, and I was like, ooh. Um, so I do videos behind the scenes.
Yeah. I had a it will never surface here,
It
and I
should.
think actually, I know. Well, I think actually, I have limited access to the videos because I'm pretty sure the account either like something happened to it or we can't sign into it anymore. But I had a group of friends, my childhood friends. We made YouTube videos and we would put them up, and we would like fully like come up with concepts and like skits.
I do remember seeing some of them, because you should,
Yeah,
back in the day. But, like, that's
yeah.
but,
Oh,
you
but
know,
and we were
that
so dead serious. Like my friend used to be able to like she knew how to like put like knew how to make like DVD menus and stuff. So she would
yeah,
like put the clips and like decorate the menus, and we would make DVDs and like watch
yeah,
them.
and, like,
I
seeing
mean, that's
how
just part of like childhood, in my opinion.
yeah,
Just like being like, oh, I want to be famous. I want to be a
yes.
star. At least I think every generation has their like version of that.
Yeah, and then I also remember, like, as I got a little bit older, later in the college years, when
Mhm.
gaming was huge, I
Mhm.
was like, "I wanna do that instead, because like,
Right.
maybe I can do that without showing my face, but then I
Mhm.
can't people still have to hear me talk," and I'm like
Yeah.
now I'm on a podcast, but back in the day, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I
Like
like"
we're so worried now.
yeah.
Meanwhile, hey
I'm like,
guys,
"I wanna
so
be
check
a"
out the new episode.
like, "I wanna be a streamer," but then most streamers, you show your face, so it
Plus,
never
you have to like, if you're a streamer, you're like, I don't know, I would have to get like really, you have to like actively, once you become like popular and you have people like watching your streams, you have to like actively like entertain an audience. Like, that's
yes.
wild to me.
Yes. Yep. So it that
That's
also
wild
never
to me.
I think I streamed once or twice, like, directly from my
Uh huh.
Xbox,
Oh, okay.
and so you couldn't hear
What
what
were
I
you
was saying.
streaming? Do you remember?
Call of Duty, because
Nice.
that was huge. But
Right.
then, like,
True.
obviously no one's watching it, I'm also not talking, so it's like, who's gonna watch just, no one
Right.
talking.
Unless you were streaming it for like your friend to watch
Yeah,
your gameplay or something. But
yeah. But
that's wild.
seeing other people do it, and
Mhm.
even now, like, there's that meme that goes around that's like, "Ah, like, I should have just done those dancing videos back in,
I
like,
should have done the
2020."
dancing videos back in 2020.
And you're like, "Imagine, like, I could have been
It's
rich and
just
famous."
it would right, it doesn't even take, but just, like, how easy now things this is
Yeah,
veering off topic a little bit, we'll get back there, I promise, but, um, how easily something can go viral, like, you film the right thing at the right time, and, like, you could have millions of views on
like
TikTok or something.
Vine was so popular, and we
Fire was
made
so oh, I was so
yes,
commi I
yep,
would love to be able to sign in. They don't even let you view Vines. The only way you
nope,
can view them is if people make, like, YouTube or
yep,
TikTok compilations, but I would just love to sign into my Vines, not even to post anything else, but I wish I would've, like,
yeah.
saved them all.
I wish you could
I
log
probably
in,
had them on,
yeah,
like, old phones. I don't know how to log in, I would have no idea. But I don't think the website itself was, like,
no,
destroyed now, so I don't even think
yeah,
you can access it in its original form, which
yeah,
is crazy.
but,
But
like
man, Vine was a time. I had some masterpieces on there. I feel like to this
yeah,
confidently I can say no. Most of it was cringy, but once some memes were like good, I would like to have
yeah,
now. I would post them out of context and be like,
yeah,
that feel when.
because, like, one of our TikToks for, like, the
Mhm.
podcast got, like, almost 2K views, and I'm like, "That's crazy." But then you
Nice.
realize, like, some people make one video that gets, like, 50,000,000, you're like, "Okay, you're just dancing
Right,
to a
right, right, and
song,
then
and
nothing
you're
right.
getting 50,000,000." Like, not that it's not work, it is, because you still have to edit and do everything, but, like, you dancing on TikTok got you 50,000,000 views. Like, that's insane.
Well,
And I
that's
can
what
see
happened to, that's what happened to Addison Rae, and now she makes her own music. It's
yep.
kinda crazy.
Oh, yeah, a lot of ads, and because TikTok was Musically, which was huge, and then
Oh, right.
TikTok bought Musically. So Musically was the
Mhm.
place where Addison Rae and all the rest of them, like Baby Ariel, all of them were
Mhm.
doing those dancing videos, and now look at them.
Mhm.
They're in movies.
Yeah.
They make their own music. I mean, Jake Paul and Logan Paul came from Vine, and they were just
Addison Rae now goes on tour with Charlie XCX,
yeah, it's
which is
crazy.
wild.
And like even Jake and Logan,
Her
like
song is pretty good though. I'm not
yeah,
gonna lie. Diet Pepsi, it's
mm-hmm,
pretty damn good.
yes,
So she's come a long way.
yeah. But you think like even Jake and Logan, like they started off just making stupid vines that were 6 seconds,
Mhm.
and now look where they're at.
Now Jake Paul is either gonna wasn't he supposed to
Yeah,
fight
he's
Mike Tyson
fighting
or did
Mike
he already?
Tyson. Yeah.
What
And
is that? I
he's
feel like that's been built up for like months. What are they
but
gonna do
then I
like
think Mike
Christmas
Tyson,
Day?
yeah, I think Mike
Get
Tyson,
ready.
like Mike Tyson had to reschedule or something, but
Okay.
he's now like a world famous boxer.
Uh-huh.
He has his own company called W. I don't know what it does, but it's a company that he has. He's
Mm.
dating
Well,
an Olympic speed skater from like some other country. Um, and then Logan Paul is famous. He has
and all
obviously,
that, and he still has that really ugly beard.
you know, at
I
least
know. I'm just like I
Logan's beard is like well kept, but Jake's
yeah.
beard is just too much. But like Logan Paul, he's world famous WWE. He has Prime Energy with KSI from the side bin.
And
He's
they
they
sell that everywhere. Like I see
yeah,
that in
and
Wawa,
then
like everywhere.
and off way off topic, but Logan Paul,
We'll get
like
back there. I promise, everyone.
Prime Energy,
You can stay with us.
KSI and Logan Paul's like Prime Energy is now working with Mr. Beast, and they have their own version of Lunchables called
This is
Feastables.
all
I think
because they took a video and they said upload and
yeah,
put it on YouTube.
so I can see why. Going back to the actual point of the podcast episode, but like it takes like a 6 second video to change your entire life. And
hmm
like kids are
Yeah,
looking at these videos and seeing like if I just
I can be
uploaded
just
to
like them.
YouTube, like if I just upload this one YouTube, I could be the next like Logan Paul or whatever,
hmm
whoever their uh people
Yeah.
are. And so
And for some of the
yeah,
people in this documentary, all it took was one audition, one
yep,
yes, or one role
yeah.
for it to completely change their lives.
Yeah, and it says so. It says the film delves into the historical background and the economic importance of child stardom in the United States, dating back to silent film actor Jackie Coogan. Not really sure who that is. Um,
He's
just
like a
said
very
yes.
like obviously you saw from the
Oh,
footage
Charlie
of the
Chaplin.
documentary, but
Yeah,
yeah,
he was
like
in those
way,
movies.
way
Yep,
far back.
and Shirley
Yep.
Temple.
Mhm.
Um, and then it says the film interweaves the historical context with discussions between Demi Lovato and the other child actresses and Kenan Thompson as well regarding their personal
Mhm.
journeys and experience with famous children. Um, and then she shares her own life experiences as a former child actor on Barney and Friends, and as a singer and then actor on Disney. And then she also talks to her sister, who was on Desperate Housewives. Um, but
Yeah, and I never realized that because I'd never seen. I mean, I think I watched like
yeah,
the pilot of that show, but I remember that scene of her sister being in the dress shop. I was just
yes,
like, oh wow,
yeah,
like
I watched, and I shouldn't have watched because I was a kid when it came out. But I
it
did
was one of those
watch.
shows on Sunday night that you stayed up too late for.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember, I think, because my mom was watching it, and like
Uh-huh. Yep.
it said 2004 to 2012. So in
Mhm.
2004, like, how old am I? Because
2004, I think we were like fourth grade,
yeah,
maybe
so
like
we were
nine
10.
ish, eight,
Yeah, 10.
10. Okay,
Yeah,
I was close.
so 10 years old. I'm not gonna know anything that's going on in this
Mhm.
show.
Right.
And if it was anything not like sex related, obviously I did not look at that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I remember.
My mom's famous line anytime there was a sex scene on something. Go in the kitchen. Go in the kitchen. She'd always tell me to go.
Go in the kitchen. And you're like, I'm not hungry. And you're like, go in the kitchen. But
Or she would say
yeah,
like, "Oh, Ann, can you hand me something for the kitchen?"
you're like, can you find this one specific thing? And it doesn't
Yeah,
exist. It's in the
and it's
kitchen
not
though.
there. Or like, can you change the dog's bowl food or something? Like she would just ask
Yeah,
anything to get me in the kitchen.
yeah,
And then a lot of times sex scenes were like short, 'cause so she would be like, "Oh, okay." Like, that was
yeah. Never mind, honey. I don't need that one thing that doesn't exist now.
Right.
But she, so
But
she,
it used to happen with House. I watched the show House
oh,
MD way too young, and it
yes.
was the same thing. My mom would stay up and watch it, so I would watch it too.
Yep. Or I just hide my face in the pillow if I wasn't supposed to be looking.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, the early 2000s.
right. But one of the first people she talked to was Drew Barrymore.
Mhm.
What was your take on?
Oh man, she was an OG child star. I
Yes.
mean,
She was one of the first, yeah.
E.T. was probably one of the first movies I've ever seen.
Yep.
So I knew about Drew Barrymore for a young age, and I always admired her. And I found out like going through as I got older, I was like, oh yeah, well she came from like a whole line of like actors and stuff,
Yeah.
and then she was basically being taken to like Hollywood parties like at 10 years old, given like she said I got like weed from like my friend's mom when I was like
Yep.
13 or something. Like
Yeah. Yeah. She was going
yeah.
into details about it because she said
Mhm.
that
Hers was
her,
literally like you can't say it was like just like she fell into the wrong crowd or something. It was like she was literally like a very young child just being taken to these places.
yes.
So it's like how was she supposed to I mean, I guess she, like, was forced that you were like, it wasn't just like she was, like, sitting in the corner just, like, waiting for, like, her dad to, like, come pick her up or something. She was, like, being fed drugs, like, it's
Yes.
crazy to think
And
about.
because she also said
Like, of
that,
course, that's gonna mess her up and, like,
yeah.
make her go through a lot of trauma.
And she said that her dad wasn't around, was he?
I think he was very dangerous, so that's why the
Yes.
mom, like, got away from him because I think he was part of, like I think he was the one, like, taking her to these parties, but, like, I think she was around too because of her mom and her mom's friends, so everybody was
Yeah.
just kind of, like, a bad influence in
Yeah.
her life,
So
it
like
seemed.
she was born into a family that already had, like, her dad was an
Yeah,
actor, her mom was an
mhm.
aspiring
Her
actress.
grandpa too, I
Yep.
believe.
Yeah, like her great grandparents, I think too. Like everyone, a
Mhm.
lot of people in her family were already famous. Um,
Yeah.
but
Nepotism strikes again.
yes. And the one thing that got me, because she was talking to Demi about, she didn't really have any good influences in her life, like growing up, until she was working with Steven Spielberg, because he treated her like the dad she never had.
Mhm.
And then, so if she fucked up, like, and she knew she disappointed him, and she felt bad, like,
Mhm.
because that was like one of the few people that actually cared about her.
Mhm.
And so, like, I felt so bad when she was talking about that.
I know.
And the fact that, like, a director whose only job it is to direct a movie is doing a better job than the parents at caring.
Mhm.
Like, that just broke my heart. Mm.
Yeah, and I was looking up an article. Says Steven Spielberg says he felt helpless over Drew Barrymore while filming E.T. because I wasn't her dad. Like it was to the
Yeah.
point where like he cared about her so much and wanted to be like a figure in her life, but
Yes.
like obviously at a certain point he has a boundary and he has to step back and be like, okay, this isn't my child. I can't
Yeah.
really do anything. But that's so sad. He had so much like sympathy towards her.
Yes.
I wonder at that time if he had like children yet. I don't know if he has kids or like if that was just like maybe she was like his first exposure to like an
Yes.
experience that felt like having a kid or something.
Yeah.
Because he was also pretty young when they filmed
Yeah.
E.T. Like I know he's like in his older age now. I believe
He
he's in
does
his
have six.
60s
It says he has six children.
or okay. So most likely at that point he
He had at
probably
least
had some
one.
kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he knows what it takes, and he seems like a good father if he's willing
Mhm.
to go out his way to be a good figure to, uh, just a little actor on set, you
Right.
know?
Right.
Yeah. Um, I felt so bad, and then she did talk about how when she was, like, 13 years old, she was basically just, like, doing drugs.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like, does that not bother anybody?
Right. Like I don't know why. I guess it had to have been, like, maybe some like, to bring up something not of the same caliber, but, like, how, Drake Bell's mom was, like, able to be, like,
Yes.
so oblivious to
Yeah.
what was going on Like, it was like, "Are you that locked in with what you're doing, or are you also on something? Like, how
Yeah.
are you not paying attention to your child?" I
Yeah.
don't know. I just feel like some people shouldn't have kids, and once again, this documentary proves that point
Yeah.
yet again, because it's just crazy to me. I wouldn't be able to just, like, sit there and, like,
Yeah.
see my child do like, I know she said her father wasn't a good influence in her life, but I was just wondering, like, what was going on with, like, the mom side of things? Like, I don't
Yes.
understand. I don't know.
It does make me wonder too,
Very weird.
like
Because somebody was taking her to those auditions. Like,
yeah.
she wasn't walking down the street at, like, 7 years old going to
No.
audition to ET, you know what I mean? Somebody had to take her there.
So, like, I'm assuming her mom probably did, but she also has a
Yeah.
lot of famous grandparents and
Yeah,
great-grandparents,
could have
maybe
been
one of them,
grandparents,
but
could have
then,
been
like, would they have not that they can do much at their age, but, like, did they not also see that there was something
I don't know,
going
man.
on? Like,
Maybe it's like I can't justify it. I know maybe
yeah.
it's like they're all in their own thing in Hollywood that they're that locked in with like focusing on I gotta shoot this scene or like I gotta
Yes.
write this. I don't know. But it just
Yeah,
still seems like it's like
it does
horrible.
remind me
Like
of Drake's mom in some ways
yeah.
because, like, you know, in her mind, she probably did care about him.
Mhm.
It's clear she didn't based off everything
In
that
her
happened.
own I guess right,
In her
right.
own way, she cared about him.
Yeah.
And so I think maybe her mom did care and maybe she did take her and do all these things, but who fed her the weed? Like, who gave her weed at 13? Like, someone must have, and I'm assuming her mom was around when she was given the weed. So I feel like her mom was a part of that and knew what was going on.
Mhm.
And then next on the list, um, I don't think this is in order per se, but the next on the list is JoJo Siwa.
Okay. Yeah. I
Um,
remember her story was more towards the tail end of the documentary, I
yes,
wanna say.
yeah, and like
'Cause her story, I guess, is the most modern.
recent,
I think
yeah,
they
more
kinda went
modern,
in, like they kinda went in
yeah,
chronological order.
yeah. Um, I will say because a lot of people have their opinions on JoJo
Mhm,
because she is kind of wild now, and like you said, maybe she's just going through a her own Miley Cyrus phase of like, I don't have to be this kid anymore.
mhm,
I don't have to put on this face and I don't have to wear the
mhm.
bows and the glitter and yeah,
Like the rebelling, like
yeah.
doing the complete 180 of, like, what she was doing before,
And I think a lot of people,
basically.
because they have their negative opinions to begin with, they're like, why is she even on this documentary?
Mhm,
But, and because compared to Demi and Drew with like drugs, and then Alison Stoner opened up about some like eating disorders. Obviously,
mhm.
Christina Ricci had some
Body
things.
image issues came up
Yeah.
too with Raven.
Yep.
Raven Symone's also in the documentary, and I know
Yep.
that she had a lot of struggles with, like, body image, and they would critique her because she was, like, thicker, you know, so
Yeah. And so, like, a lot of people, I guess, when you're looking at it, it's like, well, how can you put JoJo in that same category as like the rest of them?
yeah, but
If you've never,
she had a unique struggle,
if
though.
you've never seen Dance Moms,
Mhm,
don't say shit because like that, as much as I like it, it's stupid. It's like that, stupid reality. There's always the
mhm,
fighting, and the
mhm,
moms are yelling, and there's hair pulling, and
mhm.
it's stupid and crazy. But like the way those kids were treated, they were so poorly,
Oh,
and
I'm
like,
sure.
and they have their own documentary, and I can't watch it because I don't know where it's on. Um,
Okay.
maybe it's on
We'll
Paramount
have to
Plus.
try to
I'll
find
have to
it.
see if I can find it. But
I gotta watch Dance Moms.
some of
It's
them,
another endeavor for
yes.
me.
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Mhm.
and some of them were on it, some of them elected not to be on it for obvious reasons, but, like,
Right.
watching back, they were treated so poorly that I'm not
I can
surprised she,
imagine.
like, is the way she is.
Yeah,
And
I can
even
imagine.
yeah, and the one girl even was like, "I thought about ending my life a few times." And,
Oh my
like
god.
and, like
It's such a damn shame.
mhm, and to be a young kid to just be like, oh, I'm going to dance class, like this is my life, to then having to
Mhm.
learn dance routines in a matter of like 3 days, then also being put on a pyramid and being on the bottom every week and getting yelled at every week and being told, this person's better than you and this person's always on top. And then you have a dance teacher that like doesn't really care. And sometimes she cares depending on what the situation was. But like most of the time she's
Mhm.
just yelling at the kids. And then if they lost, like you're done. It's a whole thing. And then Abby used to say all the time, like everyone's replaceable. So it's like I can't even imagine what all of them went through on Dance Moms to like be the way they are now. So I think she does deserve to be in this documentary.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like she has two very unique struggles that were
Yes.
different from everyone else. So she
Yes.
had the whole issue about the trauma from being on Dance Moms, and
Yes.
then she had the issue where and Raven had a similar one, but I guess later on in life nobody knew that that wasn't apparent when she was a teenager. Was
Hmm.
that JoJo decided to come out. And
Yes.
then Raven did later on, but again, it didn't affect her career directly because I believe she mentions in the documentary that she was
Yeah.
told not to, or it's not a good idea, you shouldn't do that, when I'm sure she knew her feelings as a teenager as well. But
Yeah.
JoJo just like randomly just posts like a thing. Like I don't even think she
She
said the words. I think she just posted like what a thing of Lady Gaga, like Born This Way, like a
Yes. So
video.
she said she wasn't I think she said she was drunk on like
Mhm.
Instagram live and she was just
Yeah.
like jamming out to like Born This Way, but the part of the song that says it doesn't matter if you're like black, white, straight, bi, gay, whatever the lyrics are.
Yeah.
So like she never
Yeah.
directly said I'm gay,
Right.
but she's using the lyrics of that song, so you know what she's talking about when she
Mhm.
posts it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there was immediate responses from everyone like, "Oh, congratulations," or
And
like
then
people
she was
posting
like,
like
"Well,
rainbow flags in her comment, and she didn't deny it,
no."
right?
And at
So
that point, it's kind of like, "Well, I didn't
yeah,
mean to do it, but I'm out." And she feels good about it now because she can live her life. She doesn't have to keep hiding it, what
mhm,
have you. My biggest problem was that every year, and I guess maybe this is part of the facade that she had going on of like the bows and the rainbow and the glitter, and she showed
mhm,
us the amount of products that she has that she sold in
yeah,
stores is insane.
yeah,
Like she
yeah.
has this kind of facade of like I don't even know how to describe it, but
It's
then
just kind of like glittery bow, like very like I
childlike,
don't know, girly girl, childlike.
yes,
I guess
like
yeah,
not
just bow. The
mature,
bows were the bows were the thing, like with
yes,
her.
like not mature, not like it's the whole thing. And then
Mhm,
every year she would go to the Kids Choice Awards. She would either
mhm.
host it or just be invited or be as like she would announce like
She was always part of it, no
she was
matter
part
what,
of it somehow. She was in
consistently
every and
for
I
a couple years.
remember because there were still some things I'd be watching on like Nickelodeon, like reruns like SpongeBob or something.
Mhm,
But I would see her in commercials. I even
mhm.
think she had her own like little TV show maybe.
Yeah.
Um,
She had a lot of products. I
she had a
remember when
lot
I
of
used to work at
products.
I remember when she used to work at Target, people would be buying like her stuff. When
Yeah,
I used to work at Target,
yeah,
excuse me, I would like see products of it and people buying it, and little girls would be flipping over her stuff. And she had a clothing line,
yeah,
toys, like just everything.
yeah. And so all of a sudden, the face for the last few years of
Hmm.
the Kids' Choice Awards is now getting told, and she wasn't even told. You know, she made it, but the way she worded it was, someone asked her, like, hey, why weren't you at the Kids' Choice Awards? And all she
Hmm.
said was, oh, they didn't invite me.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't go into detail about it at that time, but she was
Hmm.
basically like, they just didn't invite me.
Yeah.
And then turns out it's because she openly admitted that she was gay.
Yeah.
And like
So they basically just shut her out.
they shut her out and they were trying to say, I guess they were
Oh, it
trying
was
to,
an honest mistake.
yeah. Well, I guess they were also trying to, in their minds, they can't have someone that's openly gay on kids' television, which is, in
Which
my
is why,
opinion, is
which is
stupid.
wild,
And it's
stupid,
crazy
and wild.
because Disney Channel, they weren't actively like everybody's now gay, but they have
Mhm.
had some minor like guest stars, like
Yeah,
minor,
like representation.
yes. So like the one episode of Good Luck Charlie, and this was back in like 2010 maybe,
Mhm.
where I guess it was one of Charlie's friends from like
Mhm.
kindergarten or something, and the mom was like, "Oh, what like their her parents are coming over, and that's a great. I can watch football with the dad." And then
Mhm.
the mom was like, "Oh no, she has two moms." And the dad was like, "Okay,
Mhm.
like that's cool." And then when they came over, the one mom was all into football, so we still ended up getting
Hmm.
to watch football. But
Yeah,
like even that,
that's a good. That's a good bit of like positive
yes,
representation, though.
like it's not a huge thing. They didn't blast it everywhere. It wasn't like the whole episode didn't involve them being gay. It was just one little section where it's like,
Mhm.
oh, by the way, Charlie's friend has two moms, and that was it.
Mhm.
Like they didn't make it a big deal. But
Right.
Nickelodeon is making it like this huge deal that
Mhm.
someone who used to represent Nickelodeon is like gay. And I guess because a
Mhm.
lot of kids watch Nickelodeon, and a lot of parents are going to be like, "Oh, well, she's
They're
gay."
worried about what the parents are gonna say, and in retrospect, that's like fucked up because it's like you should teach your kids to like love everybody. Like
And maybe,
you shouldn't
yeah,
instill those biases in them
yes,
when they're very young. It's not
and
creates hate.
it's
It's not a good
not.
thing.
And I mean, you've seen comments oftentimes. I see it with I Am Jazz, being that
Mhm.
she's
Oh
trans.
yeah,
A
yeah, I
lot of
remember that show.
people in the beginning, and even now, a lot of people give her a lot of shit because she was young and her parents let her transition at a young age. And then a lot of people would say, like, hey, you're going to regret that. Or, like, you're
Mhm.
still a man. Or, and then
It's like, how about you don't bully a kid online? How about that?
yeah, and then
Like what?
she has two brothers, two, like, twin brothers, and one of them is, like, a social media creator, and he works for, like, a company, but
Oh yeah.
he's very open as an ally. He supports his
Mhm.
sister. He's very much like, "This is not okay. You should not be treating people this way," and people give him shit for it. So, like,
Mm.
and I guess in Nickelodeon's defense, and it's not okay, but, like, in Nickelodeon's defense, parents are gonna be mad at Nickelodeon for promoting gay and anything
Mhm.
related in that community, but also they're gonna be now worried that their kids are gonna turn gay. That's not
Yeah.
how this
The
works.
no, no. But in plebeian, small thinking minds,
Yes.
that's like the route of like thinking.
Yep.
And
And
then also Nickelodeon's thinking like big business. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna lose," you know what I mean? Anything, God forbid you lose money, you know what I mean?
but
Like that's
also,
like it's a business at the end too.
yes.
So like they're thinking like dollar signs, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like anything, they're looking to see what will profit them, not what will
Yes.
hurt their profits because there's still so many people that have that homophobia and
Yes.
negative bias towards it.
But then you have
So
to think there's a lot of people that support that. So
right,
you
right.
might actually, I mean, I guess you'll never know, but
Mhm.
you might get an influx of views.
Right,
You might get
exactly.
like, you might be that, and
So
then everyone's now like, good for them for promoting it. Good for them for being part of the community. Like, I'm gonna now
yeah.
let my kid watch your show because you're not
Mhm.
homophobic. Like,
Right, so I guess that just goes to show you where their morals were lying because
yeah,
they thought she was too much of a liability,
yeah.
which is like, that says a lot
And
about you guys.
then
Got it.
I think she said she got someone from her team, or maybe she reached out to them and was just like, "Hey, I've been with you guys for like the last few years, like whatever. Why is this the thing now? And they
Right.
basically try to say it was an act. Oh, we just forgot, or like it was what did they say? It was like an accident.
Yeah, they said it was an accident.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like,
like,
mm,
I don't think that's an accident. You probably have a bunch of people making the letters and invitations and sending them out and proofreading everything and checking
and you
everything.
mean
I
it's
doubt it
an
was an accident.
you mean it's an accident to not invite your top star and performer who's
Right.
been doing the last 5 years of you just forgot?
Yeah, and she
No.
didn't have like a forgettable image. Like
Oh no.
you saw, like her everything was
Yeah.
so colorful. The bows, like it was like she didn't slip through the cracks. They did that on
Yeah.
purpose.
And she's one of those people you would want there because of her image and the way she looks and the way she acts is very
Hmm.
much geared towards kids.
I was about to say she screams. Well, not now with her
Yes.
rebrand, but like before the rebrand and the
Yeah, she
bow era, she
screams.
screamed
Yeah.
like Kid Choice Awards.
Yep.
You know.
And I
So
don't know where the whole bow thing came from,
I don't know. I
but
mean, I guess it kind of makes sense with like Dance Mom, so she was like in dancing competitions. Because
yeah,
you think of like costumes that people wear, a lot of times they will wear like a bow or
yeah.
you know, like in like recitals and stuff.
But
So
I felt so
maybe it came
bad
from
as
that.
well because it wasn't just like I wear my hair in a ponytail every day because I don't like it
Hmm.
my hair down. But her
Hmm.
hair was slicked back. It was bleached from the time she was a young kid. Like
Yeah.
when you look at those pictures, like her hair is so pulled back. Her hairline is fucked. Like
Hmm.
there's
Same thing
no
happened. That's what happened to Ariana Grande. She got damaged
yep,
from having to have the red hair all the time for Cat, and
yep,
then having it pulled back in the ponytail. She now
yep,
has like, I believe, permanent damage from
yes.
it. Could have changed since then, but
Yeah, maybe she got
at one
like
point,
yeah.
yeah, at
But
one point she did have like damage from having to wear the ponytail all the time.
yes.
So,
And then the next on the list is Raven Simone.
hmm.
I
Oh
loved
wow,
I loved their conversation.
I
Like
agree.
it was
It
very
was great.
deep and like you said earlier about Raven having body image issues, there was a lot
Hmm.
of episodes, well maybe not a lot of episodes, but there was one specific episode that pissed me off of That's a Raven and it's gonna I think it pissed you off too. But
Hmm.
where she's obviously considered plus size
Hmm.
and she loves fashion and she loves all that kind of stuff. So she was working in like at a fashion like studio
Hmm.
and the owner or whoever it was like photoshopped her face on somebody else's body.
Hmm. Oh yeah, this I was
Oh,
so no,
I
I
was
was so happy that this aired on Disney Channel though
yes,
because I don't know if I just don't have a good grasp on like what kids are consuming now,
yes.
but I just feel like those like specifically
That's what
That's
you
So
mean.
Raven just delved into such
Oh yes.
important emotional
Yep.
topics and that was one of them. Body image they never strayed away from it was done in like sometimes it would be done in like a funny way or like something but there was moments in that show that like
Oh
shook
yeah.
like me to my core at a very young age
Yep.
and that was one of them like she enters a competition to like walk a runway or
Yes.
something
Yeah.
like professionally and they have her do it but then she's like she gets put on a magazine and she looks at the cover in school. I think one of her friends hands it to her in class and they're like oh look and then she's like what that's not me and she notices how oh my god and it's so looking at it now like
Yes.
sometimes now people photoshop and you can't tell because it's like kind of seamless the way that they do it or they make
Yeah.
it look real like just how technology has improved since then I guess but it is so obvious how they photoshopped her and she was like that's my dress and that's my face but that is not my body she said
Yes.
I remember
And then she
specifically oh
like
my god
fights for them to like change it.
yeah yeah.
And there was a lot of
Cause she, like,
episodes. That
where she
was
wears
yeah.
'cause she made, that was a running theme with Raven is, she would make her own clothes, she could sew, and she
Yes.
had, like, a sewing machine, and she would make her own, like, dresses and outfits and things, which I thought was really cool, it made me have, like, an interest in it at a
Yes.
young age, but, like, she was like, "Oh, I remade my, she said, "I made this dress," and then she's like, "I'm gonna walk down this runway, and I'm gonna show it off,"
Yeah.
and then I remember they kept saying to her, "This girl doesn't have the look."
Yep. And there's a lot of good episodes. they talked a lot about race. They talked a lot about healthy. There was an episode on like healthy eating where like the cafeteria was going to stop
Right. I
doing
remember
certain
that.
foods, and she had like a
Mhm.
vision of the future where everyone's going crazy because the food that was there was like unhealthy and everyone got like fat. I think that was that episode.
Mhm.
And then she had like a vision
Yeah.
of it, and so she, like when she came back from the vision, she was like, "No, you can't like have this in the cafeteria."
Mhm. Yeah.
I really liked Raven. That
Like
was a
about
good show. Yep, yeah,
balanced eating because
yes.
there could be a lot of
Because I think it was um not Corey. Who's the guy friend? What's his
Eddie.
Eddie. Eddie
Eddie.
was in that
Mhm.
episode. Eddie was like, "Oh, they're having like tater tots or whatever it was." But it would be like
Mhm.
every day he would be like, "Yes, I can get this," and it's like the most unhealthy thing to serve at
Mhm.
a
Yeah.
cafeteria. And then also, if you've ever seen anything Raven was in, she was in the Cosby Show.
Mhm. That was the first thing she did.
Yep,
That was
that
her
yeah that
introduction to
and
fame.
she did say to Demi like, "I was a star since like 14 months old."
Yeah,
She
she
was
was.
in commercials from the time she was a little over a year old.
Mhm.
Like and it's crazy because like you don't have a say.
Yeah,
Like
she didn't.
you're born and then this is it.
Yeah, somebody just took her to an audition. I mean, think about how when you were that young, you were just holding an adult's hand, and wherever you went, you went. You
Yeah,
know what I
I
mean?
don't
Like,
like you're. I have like a niece that's a little over a year old.
mhm.
She can walk. She can say a few words, and that's it.
Yeah,
She can't do anything on her own. She has no concept of like
yeah, and
anything.
she wouldn't have even formed memories by then. I
Nope.
believe you don't even form memories until you're like 4. I'm
Hmm.
pretty sure. Or that's like if you look back at your earliest memory now, that's like the farthest most of the time, like 3 or
Yeah.
4 is how far back you can like recall. So
Yeah.
it's crazy to think about.
Yeah. And it says
But she
that
has like physical proof. That's the only proof that she has is if she like
yeah,
looks at
she was
videos of
like, I
herself
would have
and
never
sees it,
known if I didn't see this like picture. But it says as
which
an
is
infant,
wild.
yeah, she said as an infant she worked for Atlanta's Young Faces Inc. modeling agency. And then she was featured in a lot of like local print advertisements. And then at 2, she worked with Ford models in New York. And she was in
That's
ads
great.
for like Ritz crackers, Jello, Fisher Price. And
Mhm.
then
I think she was in one of the no no no, I'm thinking of Lindsay Lohan. One of the put speaking of Cosby Show with the old like pudding pop commercials, but maybe she
yeah,
was in like one of the Jello commercials or
she
something.
was,
I've
yeah.
definitely seen her in like
Mhm.
commercials.
So
Oh
imagine like
man.
you're that young. You're 14 months old. You have no say. You're just like 1 minute you were just in one commercial at 14 months, and then now you're on the Cosby Show, you're on That's So Raven, then you have
Mhm.
all the Cheetah Girls movies, Xenon.
Mhm.
Like she went through some shit.
Yeah.
Given how like long she's been in the industry and everything that
Yeah.
went on the Cosby Show, that's a whole thing. But like,
Oh, I know.
mm,
And later on, we didn't find out about things like with him till like later on.
yep.
You know?
And then when
Oh.
she obviously like body image was a huge thing, but
Oh yeah.
she never came out until she was an adult.
No. Right.
But
We didn't know about that until she had already been out of the
yeah,
spotlight.
but she
So.
did. I remember she in some interview, or maybe she was going back and like rewatching. Sometimes they have the interviews where they rewatch some of their old stuff and like talk
Mhm.
about it. And I think she
Yeah.
was watching like clips of That's a Raven, and she as an adult, and she said like one of the people on the show was trying to write Raven as gay because they knew that she
Mhm.
was gay.
Right.
And she was
But
like,
then that
absolutely
went
not.
out. Absolutely not right, because that went out the window because what was the whole thing throughout the whole show? "Oh, Devon, Devon, I love Devon," her
Yes.
boyfriend, that was what they like,
Yep.
she was consistent I mean, she had dates, like, in the beginning, but I think I wanna
Yeah.
say, like, 2nd season on, she was consistently her character was consistently in a relationship with that guy. Devon,
Uh-huh.
and he would go in and out of the show, but
Yeah.
that was like their end game. I remember in the last episode that they ever had, she ends up with him. So that must
Yeah.
have been wild when somebody was like, "So actually, I want to write this story." And then I think they said like her agent was like talking her out, or somebody else that she
Yeah.
was working with was like, "You shouldn't do this. This is going to ruin your career." Because I mean, it was like early 2000s, so it would have been accepted kind of, but like she still would have got.
Yeah.
I can't imagine
During
the
that,
reaction
yeah.
that she would have gotten.
And that's where Raven was, what, early 2000s? I think
Hmm.
it
Yeah, that's. I
was,
believe. I think it premiered in 2003. I want to say,
oh yeah,
or that was either when it
2003.
ended.
So if she was a teenager then,
Hmm.
in 2003, that was not accepted. It's barely
Yeah.
accepted now. So back
Yeah.
then, like,
Yeah.
it's not. So yeah, it would have ruined her career, but also even Raven said in the interview, like, absolutely not. Like,
Hmm.
knowing the character Raven, knowing how she
Hmm.
is and who she is, she's not
Hmm.
gay. And,
Yeah.
like, you can't make her gay just because that's how I am.
Hmm.
And, like, if Raven's gay, she's gay. But, like, you've
Right.
seen every episode of That's a Raven at least once. She
Hmm.
does not come off as someone that's in that community at all.
Right.
She doesn't seem she's
Right.
not gay, she's not bi, no. Like, Raven to me is straight.
Yeah, they didn't give any hints of that
Yeah.
or anything.
Like,
So
if they gave the hints, then maybe you could be like, "Oh, yeah, well, there are a few episodes where you can tell she's kind of flirting with the girls, or maybe the way, maybe
yeah,
what she says, or maybe she has, like, the pride flags hanging up, and you're like, oh, maybe that will indicate something." It's like, no,
yeah, it would have just been out of character.
no.
That's why and she wasn't comfortable with herself, let alone having to be the
Yeah.
character. So.
And imagine having your character, because oftentimes people associate characters with actresses and actors. So, like,
Right.
and sometimes they can't separate that.
Mhm.
So, like, in during that time, like 2003 or 2005, like
Mhm.
mid That's a Raven, if all of a
Mhm.
sudden Raven's character is gay, they're all going to then speculate her being gay.
Mhm.
And she
Oh yeah.
is, but, like, what if she's not ready to openly admit that she's gay? And she didn't
Right. I
until
mean,
she was,
they do that with people today. They speculate just because of a role that they play. They
yeah,
speculate what they are in real life, and it's like it's kind of none of your business,
yes,
honestly. So it's just like
hmm,
this is like because this whole documentary brought up the whole thing about pushing boundaries
yes,
and when people feel like they're entitled to a person's like personal life just because they're a fan of them.
yes,
This brought up that a lot, and I was just
yes,
thinking about that recently too.
yeah,
Like I was
and
just like people just push the envelope. They think like, oh, just because I see this person on my screen, I know who
yes,
they are, and I'm going to speculate what they're
yeah.
like. It's like not healthy at all.
And then I really liked her conversation with Demi, because I forgot this too, and I've seen every
Mhm.
episode, but she was telling
Mhm.
Demi, like, we were on Sunny with a Chance together. And then
Yeah.
Demi was like, I honestly totally forgot,
Yeah.
because of all the things that Demi went through. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
her memory is going to be foggy. But she was
Yeah.
on an episode of Sunny with a Chance with Demi, and
I don't think I watched Sunny with a Chance that
I
much because
I
like I
loved
don't.
it. But also, again, I
Yeah, I
love
don't remember
anything
if
Demi
it just
related.
wasn't.
Yeah.
I liked Demi, but that just what I don't know if it was just like the humor. Something with it I didn't mesh with the show. I
Yes.
don't know to this day what it was. I guess it was just like not my humor. I
Yeah.
don't know. I think by that time I had like not. I think I maybe was watching like more just the movies. I guess
Yes.
with Disney
Yeah.
Channel. I don't know because that I think that was the point when That's a Raven was done, and maybe Hannah
Yeah.
Montana was going towards the end or had already been done. So I wasn't stopping watching Disney, but I was watching mostly just the movies, I think, at that point.
Yeah. Because Sunny
I
with a
want to say,
Chance
or
was
like the
like,
cartoons. I loved the cartoons that would re-air. I would watch like Kim Possible or like
yes. Yeah.
something else.
Because Sunny
A
with a
lot of other
Chance
things.
was like during her prime, so like
Hmm.
2009, 2010.
Yeah,
Didn't last very long, but
yeah.
she's
I associate Demi more with like the camp rock movies
yes,
though, and her like music.
yep. And
I don't know.
so the one thing Raven said, because they were together for like that episode, she was like, Demi mentioned a lot of people said I mistreated them on set, or
Yeah.
like just mistreated them as like coworkers or whatever.
Mhm.
Um, and she didn't deny it. Like she's not being like, "Oh, that's what they said about me," but like she openly admitted, like, I wasn't the nicest person on
Right.
set to you. And then Raven was like, "Well, yeah, you weren't necessarily the nicest person, but I've been in
Mhm.
this industry for so long that I knew something was wrong with you."
Yeah.
And like she knew Demi was going through some shit and she didn't take it
Mhm.
personally because she's also seen it all, you know.
Mhm. And
And
she's also been accused, I think, of having those similar things where maybe it was something that she was working, maybe it was something with, like, her sexuality or whatever. People have accused her of that too, like, not being, like, the easiest to work with because
yeah,
it's, like, it's probably, like imagine taking the emotions of, like, being a teenager and stuff, and then
yeah,
also, like, you have to be, like, on camera, like, saying these lines. Like,
yes,
I can't even imagine.
yes. And
You know what I
then
mean? So, like, the added
yeah,
pressure of, like, processing your emotions initially just because of things happening in your life, and then also you're, like you have this camera on you all the
yes.
time. Like, it's just crazy to
And
think
like
about,
even
so
when the camera's not on you for filming, there's the paparazzi, there's
right.
the image that you have to be, especially when you're on Disney Channel. And they both said it, and I think she said it to Allison Stone too. Like you, you're this Disney kid.
Mhm.
Like you have to have this image, so like
Yeah.
you can't be like seen with a red Solo cup at all because
Mhm.
that assuming there's alcohol in it, even if there wasn't.
Right.
So like
Mhm.
you have this image about you, and then behind the scenes you're like on the verge of like a breakdown all the time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
just
and they
yeah.
didn't have certain didn't they say with them the where they were, there wasn't certain, like, like, laws that protected them at that
Yeah.
point, like, later on? And now I
Yes.
think there are more laws
Yep.
that protect
Yeah,
child
there's no
stars, but,
real
like,
laws.
back then,
Yeah.
there wasn't any, like, laws, like, regulating how long they could work.
Yes.
So, like, children weren't able to, like, be doing, like, labor jobs, but, like, they would be overworking them,
Yeah.
like, as actors and stuff because there was no laws to protect
Yeah.
the child actors specifically, I remember them saying.
Yep. And they were saying, I don't know if it was her with Raven, or maybe it was also her with Allison Stoner about like where the money goes when they get the money from all of
Mhm.
their stuff, and how like it
Yep.
would basically just go directly to the parents until they fought for it to at least go into like a fund until they're
Yeah.
like 18 or whatever.
Yeah. And that's, like, a newly brought about, like, law or policy because I
Yeah.
remember specifically when, and I was surprised to see him in this documentary, but not on Quiet on Set, when Kenan Thompson was talking about how we had, like, the shady, like, accountant or whatever, like, financial
Yes.
advisor, and then he was like, "I went to go check, like, a check," like, they were like, "Oh, the check didn't clear," and it turns out, like, he took, like, all of his money,
Yes.
like,
And there's nothing
it's
they could
just
do about it.
insane.
Yep.
Insane.
Yeah. And
Like,
yeah.
oh my
Because
god, I
Kenan
can't even
Thompson, like
fathom that.
he wasn't really in the documentary as much. Like he was there and
No.
he did briefly talk, but he didn't really say too much. But for him, yeah, that was the biggest thing. Like,
I think a similar thing happened with, Allison Stoner, right?
I think so.
I wanna say?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something where they were like, "Oh, the check didn't clear," and then it was like they took
Yeah.
all of my money or, like, a good portion of my money, and then that's cases like that is what made that law come into place where, like, they
Yeah.
have to set aside a separate fund for them
Yeah.
regardless of how much they're making.
Yes. And I felt so bad because he was also talking about like that, it wasn't a lot of money at that time,
Mhm.
but someone as young as he is, like that's a lot of money.
Right.
And so like to one day just go to do something and then you have no money left.
Mhm.
And that was like, didn't he say that was during all that or like right after?
Like, right after it, maybe, like, sometime in
Yeah.
between all that and because then pretty much after all that, he went right into, Kenan and Kel
Yeah.
when he was a teenager, so I
Yeah.
think it was something around that time.
Yeah. Like that's and then when the whole thing about the accountant that was shady, like did his parents just find a random accountant? Like, I forget how he explained it, but
No,
like
I think at one point it was like somebody that they did trust, but I think it was someone that just kind of pulled the rug out from
yeah,
underneath them. And it's just like that's crazy to think about.
yeah,
They're probably skimming that entire time because again, this is like early stages of the internet or barely no internet. So like who knows how much this guy was able to fake. Like it's just crazy to
yeah,
think about. Like you can't you there was no like
yep,
ability to like maybe do like a full background check or anything like that.
yeah,
So like
and
who knows what they were getting away with. That's crazy to think
yeah,
about.
and as a kid, you can't like back then you can't do anything about it.
Oh yeah.
So like when
Yeah, he's
all
not
their
an
money's
adult, it's
gone,
on
it's
his
like, well,
parents.
yeah, when all their money's gone, it's like, what are you gonna do? You
Yeah.
can try and fight it, but you're not getting that money back. Like,
Yeah, I guess he just continued because I mean he went on to I think he was in movies later on and he would
I
be
mean,
like in
yeah, he was
things
in
from
Good
here and there.
Burger. Yeah,
Right. Good Burger was around the time of like Kenan and Cal, I
yeah,
believe. So like and he did Kenan and Cal. I mean they were on for a good amount of years. They went up until I'd say when the show ended they almost seemed like they were like gonna start
yeah,
college, like that type of
yeah,
age, like how most Disney shows would end, like how That's a Raven
yeah,
ended with like like but
yeah.
after
Uh,
that, he just kind of, like, faded into
yeah, and then
making,
he
like,
was
random
on.
appearances here and there.
Yeah, and then he was on SNL for
Oh,
a
yeah,
little
yeah, yeah,
bit.
now he's got oh my god,
Now
yeah,
he's like,
SNL kind of, like,
yeah,
revived his career.
yep.
Thank God.
And
Ugh.
then they talked about Christina Ricci. She was also a part of the um, documentary, and I honestly don't remember what she said.
Yeah, I mean, hers was mostly, like, I was unsupervised, and I was just
Oh,
able
yeah,
to just, like, drink at a very young age.
yes.
That that's basically all that I got from her.
And
I
I
didn't
do
really it
remember,
didn't
like,
seem like it seemed like one of the less emotional stories, kind of like her and Keenan were kind of like the less emotional
yeah,
parts of the documentary, but
that's,
it was just, like,
yeah, and it still kind of
wild how
goes to
she was
show,
just
like,
left unsupervised,
yes,
and she was I believe, like Drew Barrymore, she was drinking and doing drugs at, like, a very young
yeah,
age,
and like no
I think,
one's there to
to
stop her.
guide her.
Yeah, and then it says
Yeah.
in the past she's been open about anxiety and anorexia. So like she
Mhm.
obviously has that to deal with in her life.
Mhm.
Plus during her she was like big. Like
Right.
she was in Casper, she was in any of the Adams Family movies.
Mhm.
Like she
Well,
was
she was
massive.
Wednesday Addams, like, now more so in present day, I think everybody associates Wednesday Addams with, Jenna Ortega, but who was the OG? It
Yes.
was her. You know what
And
I mean?
she's
She was the
even
first one
in
to portray her.
Wednesday.
Yeah, yeah, they brought her back
Yep.
for Wednesday. She's ki sh her to Wednesday is kind of like what, Winona Ryder is to, like, Beetlejuice, like, that
Yes.
type of, like,
Yep.
dynamic. So,
Yes.
ironically, both including Jenna Ortega.
Yep. But like she was in her prime. And even like back then, and the Adams Family was in like the early 90s. And
Mhm.
she like who was like who is no one who's not watching their kids?
Yeah.
This just it just continues to bother me. Like you're
Some people should not have kids, and again, proves my point.
yes,
It's crazy.
yep. And it's crazy because I see all these things. Again, this is coming back to like YouTube. And have you ever seen like any of the YouTube families?
I
They're so
dabbled, but I think I honestly would get most of the information about it from you.
I just get there's some YouTube families where like the kids are old enough, they're in their like late teens or whatever, and you're like, okay, you're a YouTube family, like you're together. But a lot of
Mhm.
the YouTube families are like the parents and then their kids are like 4 years old. And you're like, why are
Wow.
you putting your 4-year old on YouTube? So like,
Right.
and not to say anything bad about this family because I'm sure they're lovely people, but like the Brandt family, Cole
Mhm.
was one of the Vine people. I don't know if you remember him and like his friends. They would do like the stupid dances. You might
I
have
think
probably,
so.
yeah, you probably seen them. But he got married to Savannah. Savannah has a kid from a previous marriage, Everly,
Mhm.
and they're the ones that have. Zealand and Sunday and Posey, um, and Blue, I think their newest son's name is. But like
Mhm.
they blast their kids. And like Everly's old enough where she can say, "Hey, I don't want to do this."
Mhm.
But like Posey's, I guess maybe she's starting to get at the age that she has an opinion. But like Sunday and Zealand and Blue's like a baby. And I think Zealand just turned like 2 or 3. Sunday's a little bit younger than he is. They don't have a say. And you're blasting your kids on the internet. And it just kind of reminds me of like this, where like, why are you like, a lot of parents are just putting their kids into like the fame when they don't have say in their own life.
Imagine just losing your agency. It's
Yeah,
just crazy to think about.
like yeah, you're
Like
growing
your
up,
childhood.
your
It's
childhood's
ironic that it's
gone.
called Child Star because they're every single one of these people have something in common where like aspects of their childhood have been taken from them.
Yes.
So,
And then there was another YouTube family. They're
hmm
Matt and Abby. They
oh, I
have
think I've heard of them.
yes, and they have podcasts together, and then they have I think they have one son. But I keep seeing these TikToks where I guess Abby and Matt went on a cruise, and I don't know if this is true or not, but they went on a cruise and left their kids in the hotel room by themselves. And their
Wow,
kids are not young, like they're not old enough to be able to be on their own. Like they're like babies practically. And then
that's crazy to
there's
think
like
about.
something that came out that was like, "Oh yeah, well there was cameras." And it's like, "Okay,
Hmm
but is anyone in the room with them? Or just watching them on the camera from wherever you were at?" Then there's the balcony, and people were like, they could have easily just gone to the balcony and like fallen off
hmm
or whatever. And then they came out with an apology, but also said they weren't alone. There was other people in the rooms while they went out to dinner. It was like a whole thing. Like, why are you putting your kids online? Like, there's no need for that. Like, it's one thing to post pictures of your kids on like Instagram. Like a lot of
Right.
people are like, "Oh, happy second birthday," but like to make TikToks and YouTube videos and to put your kids on, because later in life they're gonna grow up and be like, "I don't remember any of this." But why is it that I'm going into second grade and my my classmate is like, "I watched, I know who you are," and it's like I've never met you a
That's
day in my
wild to
life.
think about.
Yeah,
That's so creepy.
and like same with these people, like they're so young.
Hmm
And like all of a sudden, it's like imagine being Drew Barrymore after filming E.T. and then going out in public and someone being like Drew Barrymore, and she's like, okay,
Yeah, like you're the kid
and
from
then it's like I
ET.
saw you in this movie, and she's probably like, I have no idea who you are. Like they don't
Yeah.
understand the concept of like people are gonna now know who you are. People are gonna like
hmm
your TV shows and like your movies and like what you're doing, and you're gonna have cameras everywhere following you. Like these poor people. Like, I get
Yeah.
there, it's movies and TV and you need kids in it, but like, it's no.
Fame is crazy.
Yes.
You made me think of like when you just mentioned like somebody just randomly coming up to Drew Barrymore and just like shouting at her on the street.
Yeah.
The recent events that have happened with Chapel Roan, how she's like people are
Oh,
just like coming up to me and just like screaming in my face and it's like would you just randomly like walk up to somebody in the supermarket and just like scream at them?
yeah.
Like she's like I understand like this is art, like this is what I do, but like people push boundaries. She's like, they stalk my family. They do all of these crazy things, like just because they
Yeah.
listen to my music. And it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm still a person with like feelings and a need for privacy. Like,
Yeah.
people will just push the boundaries any way they can. And I can't imagine like when you're very young and it happens, like just like any age, it's just.
Yeah.
Fame is just a wild thing to think about. Like how it must change someone's life and
Yeah.
their everyday routine and
Yeah.
dynamics.
And even getting what is it, Matarazzo? Is that how you say that? From Stranger Things?
Yeah, from Stranger
Um,
Things, yep.
he's obviously I don't know exactly how old he is now.
I think they're
Oh,
all, like, old
22.
enough to, like, be in college now, which is
Yeah,
kind of
so
wild, the passage of time, but,
yeah,
like, yeah.
they're in their early 20s now. But
Mhm.
I saw him there was an article and I guess he made a comment or tweet or something that said there was an older fan. So clearly older means not
Mhm.
in their
Oh,
20s
I
or
think I know what you're talking
30s.
about, and I'm cringing
Yes,
already, I know what you're talking
but
about.
older
Mhm.
being probably at least 40 or older. And
Mhm.
she goes, I've had a crush on you since you were 13. Excuse me?
Um, excuse me, ma'am?
It's one thing to
Go to jail?
say, it's one thing to
Go to
say,
jail? What are you
oh,
talking
like,
about?
yes. It's one thing to be like, oh, I saw you
I'm a
in,
fan, or I like your show,
or like, oh,
you know?
I was there, like, I saw you when you were in Les Mis on Broadway. Like, you were so
Right.
cute. Like, even if you say someone's cute, like, there are cute little kids on the internet, and I'm like, oh, that little, like, he's so cute. But I'm not like,
Yeah,
I've had a
adorable,
crush on
right.
you.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
that's
just they were
disgusting.
weird. People have been weird to that entire cast
Yep,
of Stranger Things since they were very young, and I'm like, if I was any one of them, I probably, like, would not use the internet because it's
yep.
just, like they definitely have to, like, turn off comments or something. People are weird to them,
It's
and they've been ugh, it's gross, it's
yes.
disgusting.
Yeah,
God,
it says it's a mother in her 40s
no,
that told her that.
ma'am,
And then
no.
it says this woman in her 40s said straight up, I've had a crush on you since you were 13. And I was like, that's upsetting. Then she doubled down. She was like, I'm aware of the age difference. Her daughter was with
Mm,
her, and her daughter goes, Mom, what the fuck? I swear to God.
Jesus Christ.
So after he says that's upsetting, she doubled down and then is like, I'm aware that you're a child.
I would be like, can we do a background check on this lady? She might have to be arrested."
And the
Like,
fact
what
that
the
your
fuck?
daughter, I don't know how old the daughter is, obviously, but if your own daughter is like, Mom, what the fuck? Like,
Yeah,
mm, you shouldn't have said
that's
that.
weird as hell.
Yep. I couldn't
Ugh,
with that comment. And then, so
no.
yeah, you have Drew Barrymore, Jojo Siwa, Raven, Christina, and then I really also liked Allison Stoner's talking with Demi Lovato.
Mhm.
Because they obviously work together a lot with both Camp Rock movies. Um, but Allison Stoner and her took a deep dive into body image
Mhm.
and all the issues that came with that, and being child Disney star, like you have to have a certain image, and so like I think maybe she said it was the second film, but like people would make comments being like, "Oh, you look so good, like you're so skinny, you look so good."
Mhm.
Meanwhile, this is during her eating disorder.
Yeah.
And obviously, no one knows that because most people are not going to openly admit that they have an eating disorder. But like
Mhm.
that, that's got to
Still
be
very much a
yes,
taboo topic. It gets talked about more and more, but
yes,
it's still something that people tend to keep to themselves
yes,
until later on, I guess.
yeah. And she did also admit to Demi that in the first um, Camp Rock movie, they were super close, and then it
Mhm.
was like in the second film, it was like Demi was a totally different person
Yeah.
than why like how she was in the first film, and then
Mhm.
obviously you do understand why because Demi goes into a lot of conversations about her own self,
Mhm.
but like she was also being mistreated by Demi during the second film, and it's crazy because you watch those films and you would never know.
Yeah.
Like there was not one scene where I'm like, oh, like they seem like they're not getting along.
Yeah.
Like they hide it.
I don't remember. I would love to go back and see if they had any type of Because I don't remember.
interviews.
Maybe I watched
Yeah.
it at the time. Yeah, or like they used to like be like, "We're on the set of Camp Rock." Like I just
Yes.
wonder if there was any like behind the scenes.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
maybe it's
Yeah.
probably like they were playing to the camera then too. But
Yes.
like I just wonder if there was any type of like little
Yeah.
slip up or like indication, but probably not. Knowing how squeaky clean Disney wants to keep its
Yes.
image, probably not. Like probably if there was anything
Yeah.
that would cause alarm, they probably cut it out. But
Yeah.
it would be interesting to find any type of like behind the scenes or like interviews and see if there's any
Yes.
kind of like weird
Hmm.
energy there or anything.
And then obviously Demi openly admitted, like, yes, I did mistreat you.
Mhm.
I was going through a lot of shit myself.
Yeah.
That, or like, she didn't say that, but like, obviously, she's going through a
Right.
lot of shit herself, but like, that doesn't excuse what I did. And like, when I'm like saying this now, like, I'm genuinely like sorry.
Mhm.
And I honestly did not mean to do that to you, but
Mhm.
because I'm going through all this myself, I like basically wasn't seeing how it affected everyone else around me.
Yeah.
And they apologized and they're on good terms. But
Which is great to hear.
yes,
I mean, I would assume they would be on good terms because probably if they weren't, she wouldn't have.
she wouldn't have
As
agreed
soon
to
as
it.
I realized that she agreed to it, I mean, everybody there no didn't have any bad blood or ill
Yeah,
feelings towards her. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it.
yeah.
You know?
And then it's crazy because looking back, like now looking at Demi's whole thing, she
Mhm.
also did drugs at a very young age.
Oh yeah, it
Um,
was very
she,
unsupervised. I don't know what. The only thing that didn't seem clear to me is where did the disconnect, unless she was just really good at like hiding things from her mother. But early on, her mom seemed very involved with what
yeah,
was going on when they had to like move. And then I guess maybe there was just a disconnect. Something happened there because all of a
yes,
sudden she was like able to hide these things from her mom, even though her mom
yes,
was like actively involved in what she was
yeah,
doing. So I don't know if her mom just like turned a blind eye to things. I don't know. But that
yeah,
was the only thing that I was like, what happened there?
yeah. And I
That
guess
wasn't
like
clear. So maybe that's
maybe,
something they're still working out between each other.
yeah.
Because who knows?
And
That just
then,
was bizarre to me the more I think about
yeah,
it.
because she was saying how she auditioned for, was it Hannah Montana? I forget what she said she auditioned for, but she auditioned and then didn't make
She
it.
auditioned for like a couple things. I think
Yeah,
it was like she said she went on like 3 auditions. And I think one of them might have been Hannah
yeah,
Montana. That would have clicked kind of like timeline wise, so
yes.
maybe.
But she auditioned, didn't get anything she auditioned for, went home. They called her
Mhm.
and said, but we want you to come back for Sunny with the Chance. And
Mhm.
then I guess her mom was saying, like, yeah, we'll just drive up or
Or was
whatever.
it Camp Rock or Center of the Champs?
It might have been
Did she
Camp
do
Rock.
Camp Rock?
I think it might have
Oh
been
yeah, yeah.
Camp Rock first, and then
Yeah,
in
I just remember
between,
her mom mentioning the name Mitchie. They were like, "We
yes,
want you to be
yes, yes.
Mitchie in Camp Rock."
And so like they basically were like, yeah, we'll make the drive up, and they were like, no, you have to like live here. And
Mhm.
so like at
They're like,
that,
"That's not how this works."
that's
And the
not how
mom was
this
like,
works.
"Oh."
So like you have to then again, she was a teenager then, drop your entire life that you lived for the past like 14 or 15 years, drop that, move to a whole new state. Like so you're going from wherever she used to live in like Texas or whatever to California
Yeah,
to do this. Like you don't even know if it's going to work out. Like you assume, oh,
right.
we're filming this movie, it's going to be great, but this could flop. And then and then you just moved across the country for no reason. But she did take off. So in her, I guess it was good that they moved. Um, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when she started doing drugs exactly, and like how her mom didn't notice because
Yeah, I don't know where the
her
disconnects
mom was a
happen there.
good,
Maybe
like her mom was a good
yeah,
mom.
her mom seemed to be a good
Yeah,
mom. So I don't know, maybe the fact that she had like two sisters. I don't know if her mom's attention was divided. I don't know
Yeah.
because it seemed like the dad was also involved in their life, right?
Yeah.
I think,
Her
and
dad
then he
was
just
on and
ends up
off.
passing away like later
Yeah.
on, I believe.
Yeah, her dad was not good, I think.
I don't think they had a good relationship or like he
No.
wasn't involved.
And so
Didn't
I
seem that way, but I think later on they like repatched things. I remember her saying
yeah,
in like interviews.
like later in life before he passed.
Mhm.
Yes. But I think for the longest time he was not um part of her life, so obviously that's traumatic.
Right.
Having like an absent father or like father that also has their own issues. And I think she
Mhm.
has talked about it a bunch of times. Um, yeah, so her mom, and then she has an older sister named Dallas, a half sister, Madison, and then older paternal half sister, Amber. Um,
Mhm.
After her second birthday, her parents got divorced. Um, and then it says something about his dad. Yeah, she has been vocal about her strained relationship with her father, calling him abusive and once stated he was mean. But
Mm.
he wanted to be a good person and he wanted to have his family. And when my mom married my stepdad, he still had this huge heart where he said, I'm so glad that he's taking care of you and doing the job I wish I could do.
Mm.
And then he died in
Damn.
2013. And
Mm.
then during that time, she said that he had been mentally ill.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Well, she was going through it.
she was going through that.
She's been through a lot.
Yes. Again, it is confusing where like how young the drug started. Um,
Mhm.
but at some point she was doing drugs, and then it does say um, on August 2010, on her 18th birthday, she purchased her own house for her family in Los Angeles. However, Lovato decided to live in an air quotes sober house in LA after leaving rehab in 2011. She also
It's wild.
purchased another house in LA and she sold the other one in June of 2020. But like so at least during 2011,
Mhm.
she was doing actively doing drugs. And that's she's 18 or 19 years old. So again, it's probably like that freedom of like
Mhm.
um
Right. Like
as
I'm an
like
adult. I can do what I want.
yeah, no one can really stop me. I'm not a kid that has to conform to whatever my parents are saying. So I can go to those parties and I can do those things.
Mhm.
You know, I just have to present myself at work a certain way. But like outside of work,
Mhm.
like we're good.
That part.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so then she dated remember when she dated Wilmer Valderrama
Mhm.
and she was only 18 and he was 29.
Cool.
And
Talk about
again,
an
like
age difference.
again,
Wow.
technically 18 is an adult, although it says 18, but like
Yeah, but like, who knows when he like met her?
yes.
Like, there's too much gray area there, and like the age
Yep.
difference is just like, why is he not going after girls that
Yeah.
are almost 30? Like, why is he talking
Yes.
to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yep. And then so she suffered from bulimia, self-harm, and I did notice where I did see a thing once that says if you watch the second Camp Rock movie, you'll notice that she's always wearing like a bunch of bracelets like in every scene
mm,
to cover up the self-harm.
yeah.
And then she went to rehab at 18. Um And then she says in 2010, she withdrew from the Jonas Brothers concert to enter a treatment facility for physical and emotional issues. And it was reported that she's decided to enter treatment after punching her backup dancer, which she
Yep.
did talk about in the
That,
documentary. Um,
right. That I was about to say that comes up a couple
yep.
times.
Um, and then her management team basically convinced her that she needed to get help. and she took full responsibility of the incident. And she even says it in the documentary, like, yeah, I was not at my best, and I did that, and I obviously shouldn't have. She acknowledged that she had bulimia, self harming, self medicating with drugs and alcohol, like a lot of teens do to numb their pain. She added that she basically had a nervous breakdown and been diagnosed with bipolar disorder during that treatment. And she later commented that she used coke several times a day and smuggled coke onto airplanes. In a 2022 interview on the podcast Call Her Daddy, she added that she began using opiates at the age of 13 after a car accident and was already drinking by that time. So, like, she wasn't even really famous then.
Right. So she
She
just
was
like
just at, like, either just at the peak of, like, auditioning for things, or she was not, because she would have been a teenager. So, yeah, I don't think she was even thinking about Disney Channel at that time. And then she said this eventually led to her cocaine use at the age of 17. Um,
yeah, and then I know
yeah,
that she goes on later to talk about how she eventually at one point overdosed on heroin. So it's like
yes, yeah, in 2018, I think it was. Yeah.
this woman has lived so many lives. Like
And she said she should not be here today.
right.
Um, but in 2018, I think that's because her song "Sober" came out, and then she revealed that she relapsed after 6 years. Um, and so she was rushed to the hospital for an overdose. And then the doctors told me that I had 5 to 10 minutes. Like, if no one had found me, then I wouldn't be here. The singer was reported to be stable and recovering later in the day, and she reportedly overdosed on oxycodone laced with fentanyl. So,
Hmm.
and fentanyl is one of the most deadly, like, drugs. Like, it is,
Yeah.
like, and oxycodone is not great either. And so
Right.
she
Right. But
obviously, they used Narcan or I think it's Narcan. It's called,
yeah,
and that
it's
basically
Narcan.
saved her life. But again, she was like, if someone came like 10 minutes later, she would be dead. And then she also stated during that time, and I do remember an interview where she said, she had a lot of health complications due to the overdose. Like, she had multiple strokes, a heart attack, brain damage, long-lasting vision problems. Um, and then she went and got help again
Hmm.
after that. Um, um, and then I think in 2020 is when she went on like Ellen or something and was talking about all of her struggles.
Hmm.
And then I didn't see this, but this is according to the Wikipedia. It says in 2021, Lovato says that she was raped at 15 when she was an actor on Disney Channel, and then it was a co-star whom she had continued seeing thereafter. I think she also mentioned that, right?
Yeah, I think she did.
And
I'm
then it
pretty
says the
sure.
incident contributed to her bulimia and self harm. She told someone about the incident, but the assaulter never got in trouble for it. They never got taken out of the movie they were in. She stated that she did not acknowledge the act as rape at the time because sexual activity was not normalized to her, and she was part of the Disney crowd where, like, the purity rings and the waiting till marriage was like a huge thing. So it says it was a co-star who she saw afterwards in a movie. So, like, who was it? It can't be Joe Jonas, could it?
I think. Oh, maybe. Wow.
I don't know. No, because she's still cool with the Jonas Brothers, all of
Yeah.
them. So I highly doubt it's him, because there's no way she would continue to be seen with, like, with them. No. But, like, who was it? It's like she was
I
only
have no
in.
idea.
I don't know. Jeez. And then again, you're 15 at that time. I mean, there are some teens that do know about sex and do know what that is, but there's a good chunk of people that at that age they don't know anything.
Mhm.
So like when she said, "Oh, that's not how she viewed it at that time," it's like, yeah, a lot of people don't view it at that time because
Yeah.
it's not something that you're gonna know a lot about.
Right.
Uh, this
So
whole doc,
what did we think? Yeah, let's
it wasn't as
what was the
hard.
overall?
I would say it's not as hard hitting as
Yeah.
like the Quiet on
Compared to
Set.
Quiet on Set. Quiet on Set was also like multiple parts, so I don't know if that gave
Yeah,
them more time to like delve in
yeah,
more to certain issues.
and I definitely
Like
think
this had to be condensed into a movie, but I did learn a lot.
I
I'll
learned a
say that.
lot, and I feel like it's nice to see. Not that she didn't take accountability beforehand, but it is nice to see like when someone fucks up and they know they fucked up, but they admit it.
Right.
And they're like,
Right.
"Yes, I fucked up and I had all these issues and I had all these things going wrong. It does not excuse the way I treated you, and I'm like extremely sorry about it." Like she owned up to it, and I definitely like that because I feel like a lot of people don't own up to the fact that like it was a
Mhm.
problem because it's like, "Oh, well, I was going through a hard time." And a lot of people just act like that. And you're like, it doesn't matter how hard of a time you're going through, like don't treat people like that.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that
Absolutely.
she was very open and honest about like I wasn't the nicest to you and I treated you like crap and that wasn't okay.
Yeah, this documentary really did showcase the growth that she's had,
Yes.
which I really appreciated seeing.
And I think she did pick a good selection of people to be on the documentary.
Mhm.
It would have
I
been
agree.
nice to have a lot more people
Yeah.
just because I think like with the Quiet on Set, there were so many people that were talking in different areas. So like obviously it is the child actors, a lot of them that were talking that were like, "Oh, I was on this show and I was on this show," and then you have the parents speaking up, and then you have like the female writers were speaking up about how they were treated. So I like that aspect of where like there's a lot of people from the different areas of Nickelodeon that spoke up against it. Whereas this one, it was like here's five to six people that were child stars. I would have liked to see, I guess, a lot more people involved, but maybe they
Yeah.
don't have the budget, or maybe they didn't want to
There
make
might have
it.
been people,
Yeah,
right, I was about to say there might have been people that she reached out to that didn't want to do it.
yeah.
I don't know.
I It would have been cool to see if like Miley was on it, or even Selena, just to see their take on it. But
Lindsay Lohan.
Lindsay
I would
Lohan,
have loved to have seen
yes,
Lindsay Lohan.
and
Maybe
obviously
even like I doubt she would do it, but like
Amanda
maybe
Bynes.
even Amanda. But
Yeah,
I know, but I don't think
she
she's. I
no,
think she's just not crossing
no.
that line. Like
Yeah,
she's fine with like posting herself online, but it seems like she just wants to kind of move past it and just
yes,
not talk about it,
yeah. Like,
which is her right
oh yeah,
because I can't even imagine processing that type of traumatic shit.
yes.
Oh my
And
god.
like at least with Lindsay Lohan, like she had a lot of shit go on. She got out of
Mhm.
it. She's thriving. She's married. She has a kid.
Right.
She's coming back and they're doing like she was in that Christmas movie and then they're doing
Mhm.
the second
Freaky Friday.
Freaky Friday or like the sequel, whatever. Like so
Which they
I could
can, which
see
I hope they change, which I hope they change the title of it right now because it's Freakier Friday, and I'm like, guys, come on, any
yes.
other?
Yeah.
I'd accept Freaky Friday 2 before Freakier
Yes.
Friday,
And like
but hey, what do I know?
yeah, and it is like I do feel like Lindsay Lohan would have been a good choice because she's in a much better place. So
Yeah.
like all the people that she invited on, although they
Mhm.
were in traumatic experiences, like they're at a point in their lives where they can talk about it and it's not like going to make them hit rock bottom again.
Right.
So I think I could have
They've
got
processed
yeah,
their grief and trauma.
yeah. And I do like the one thing I also liked Alison Stoner mentioned that she didn't back then there was no laws to protect children when they become actors and
Mhm.
actresses. And so there was like a kid that went to like court, remember? There was a kid that like fought the system.
Mhm. Yeah,
And
and there was
then
a law made in
yes.
result of it.
Yep. And Alison Stoner was in support of that law, and I was like, see, some random kid just was like, this is not okay. Like, we need a law to protect us if we become famous.
Right.
And then they went out of their way to reach out to somebody, like, I don't know if she's a judge, not a judge, a lawyer or something, but like, she reached out to like the best person they could, and they like made a whole law about it. And like, it took you how long to for someone to step up and like be there for kids? Like, it's been years and no
Yeah.
one's
I
cared
mean,
until
look at the pain and suffering it took for that law to be made.
yeah.
Kind of ridiculous.
I mean, you have at least these people that were in the documentary, plus anyone else that's ever been on Nickelodeon and Disney Channel. And then
Mhm.
obviously like Lindsay Lohan dealt with stuff and Amanda Bynes, and then so many other people that have never spoken up that are actors and actresses. Like, oh my God. And all of a sudden now there's something that's going to protect the kids. It's like, well, it's good that there is something now, but like, there should have been
It's a
something.
shame.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it took that long for us to
Yeah.
get this far.
Yes.
And it's still just like a small step. I'm sure there's like a lot more improvement that
Yeah.
has to be made as well.
Yeah.
But I guess progress is progress.
Yeah. And there's at
So,
least started somewhere.
right, protection for like the future
Yes.
generations. So, they can say that that's another reason why these documentaries is it's so great that people come forward and tell their story because it inspires change
Yes.
and it inspires advocacy and for people to want to share their truth,
Yes.
which hey,
And
big fan,
then at the
big fan.
end, they do show Demi like talking to a group of kids, and she basically says like, I wish I had a mentor that told me up front, like, these are some of the things you might deal with
Mhm.
when
Right.
you get into this industry.
Right. To
And
prevent it. It
yes,
could have prevented well, it may not have prevented things, but maybe it would have been like a better mindset to
yes,
like face these challenges
yes.
with. So
And so it's good that she was like, I'm extremely happy to be here and like help you. And like, this isn't to say you shouldn't do these things. Like, you just go for your dreams, but like, you should be aware that like, hey, there are things that happen when you become famous,
mhm.
and you need like a good support system. That was a good ending to it.
Yeah.
And I do think more documentaries need to be made and come out about stuff like this.
Yeah, well I believe Allison Stoner now has a podcast about this.
Does she? Oh,
So I believe so. Yeah, so I believe either that or she was making some type of project where she was opening space for people to tell these type of stories as well. So
oh,
hey, awareness is like the first step.
yeah.
People have to share their truth
And
and
it's
make
gonna
sure that
make
this doesn't happen again for future
it's gonna
child
make
stars.
yeah, it's gonna make people uncomfortable,
Oh yeah,
but
for
it's also
sure.
gonna potentially save someone's life. So
Mhm.
talk
Yeah.
about it and talk about anything that makes you uncomfortable. That's why like it did kind of piss me off when Jojo Siwa was like, yeah, they just told me I was like they just told me it was a mistake. It was an accident. And it's like, no, she's an advocate for so many things. Like, it would have been so good to have her after she came out. It would have been so good to have her on the show,
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
a network like Nickelodeon for their biggest event, because then so many kids who feel that way but don't talk about it are going to be like, hey, that's me on TV. And they're going to feel a lot better about themselves.
This was essential viewing, if
Yes.
I do say so myself.
Yeah, it's definitely worth watching.
Mhm. So check it out. It's on
Check it out.
Hulu.
Just on Hulu. Yep.
And I think we can just we've done an in-depth review, so maybe we can just
Yes.
that can be the closeout of
Yes.
this discussion.
Plus, I
Then.
don't have anything saved anyway. So.
Nah, but we'll get you next time. We'll have those juicy Facebook memories
Yes.
coming up next time.
Mm-hmm.
So check out our link tree. Follow
Yes.
us on Instagram. We are on the TikTok.
Yes.
As we mentioned earlier, we got a significant amount of views and attention on certain videos
Yes.
of ours, so check it out. It's good.
I think
Hashtag
the highest
content.
viewing one of the highest viewing ones is the one where we're talking about the Jersey Shore. It's like, oh, go to the Jersey
Yeah.
Shore, and then it gets shit on by seagulls. And like, I wasn't expecting it to do that well, but I think that's our
The
top.
TikTok account for the Jersey Shore like reposting them.
We're famous now.
Can you imagine?
Yes. But we're on TikTok, and then we're also on Spotify,
An Apple
podcast,
Podcast.
and Apple.
Yep.
Yep.
So check us out.
Check us out. Yes.
You've gotten to the end of this episode, so
Yes.
there's more to check out. Get
Yep.
caught up.
Oh, and we have a good one coming up next.
Yes.
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 I'm
So be on the lookout for
Yep.
our upcoming episodes. The little insight into recent events.
Yeah.
Proof that we actually do go outside. Crazy.
We have a life. Yep. You wouldn't think so.
Crazy.
But we do.
All right. Well, we'll catch you guys in the next one.
Yes. Bye.
Bye.